We have arrived in an administrative state as opposed to a democratic state, and going actually back down to philosophical principles. We can argue about, was masking in the public interest? Were mandates in the public interest? Were lockdowns in the public interest? But the real issue is, why did the health authorities get to decide what was in the public interest? We have to start paying attention in a different way to what's going on and questioning what things mean. Because if we don't understand what's going on, we can't decide what we're going to do about it.
Public health is supposed to protect the citizens. Citizens aren't supposed to protect public health. Canada's not an island. We had 20,000 truck drivers crossing the Canada-US border every day throughout the entire pandemic. Why? Because we have a just-in-time food supply system, and we would have starved to death if we hadn't done that. So the spread of the disease just happened naturally. It suddenly became a crime to get sick.
Everyone has a sense of right and wrong. Every single person in this room, every single person watching, every single religion, every single culture has a moral code, and when you compare them, they are strikingly similar or identical. In effect, we have the same moral code. We know right from wrong. Now, that can be used against us.
Another thing that the CBC has done very successfully is it's promoted a new identifiable group of Canadians and fomented hate against them, the anti-vaxxer. What is an anti-vaxxer? Who is an anti-vaxxer? Does someone whose partner had a severe reaction to the vaccine and was told they must get a second one if they want to keep their job, and then they had a worse reaction, and this happened, and I've talked to people, I know it exists. And then maybe they don't want their kid to get it. Are they an anti-vaxxer? Do they need to have mental correction, psychological retraining?
The members and veterans who voice concerns about a mandated COVID-19 vaccination program are an outstanding group of people. They're highly decorated, they're exceptionally trained and experienced, and they have a moral code that has withstood the ultimate test of just following orders mentality that was supposed to die after World War II.
It makes sense to me that people take this vaccine, that there's going to be reactions, but what didn't make sense is that they weren't acknowledging me at all about that reaction. Why not study me? Instead, they just pushed this other vaccine on me, and I didn't know what to do. I had no idea if I should take the second vaccine, which at that point I did feel like I should, because I was scared to get a blood clot again, because I've already had that, and that was horrifying.
As a family, we decided that it was best to not participate. When I was very young, I'd had a bad response to my year 1 boosters, which I was after in the hospital for a short period of time. And so I just let my parents consult with family doctors and experts that they were in contact with to decide the best course of action. So they decided to avoid taking them.
And I know a lot of people don't agree with me, and I'm sorry if you don't. But for the love of God, look at the science. But these doctors, for whatever reason, they won't bend. And I pleaded with them, and I've asked them to please give me this transplant, or at least try to look for the organ that I need.
To this day, I believe, it is still an experiment, a massive experiment on a large scale, on a population which hasn't been given the information for informed consent. You can only give informed consent if you have the information for informed consent.
So I realized that at the highest level that there was a denial of these safety signals, that they did not want to know about safety signals. That because this made absolutely no medical sense. Every doctor's highest priority should be the safety of their own patients.
From the beginning of this pandemic, the mainstream media, so let me be specific, CBC, CTV, and Global, in my opinion, became the Ministry of Propaganda for the Government of Canada and for the Premiers of Canada.
And that was the horror of it. It's kind of whole total distortion very quickly of the whole society, and I don't see how it can get back, how these people can get back to that. How can they find their previous selves, if they had them, and become human beings again and treat others with essential respect?
How can this be happening in Canada at this time with what we know? And how can public health in every province still be vaccinating children? As a society, to a free and democratic nation, our greatest danger is you not taking personal responsibility for your actions. And if you are convinced that you should be taking actions for the greater good, you have just committed the greatest act of treason that you can, because you have abrogated your personal responsibility to the government. We all know that our nation is changing. We all know that things have now gotten out of our control, and we have a decision to make. You can't avoid it any longer. You can't say, oh, I'm going to stick my head in the sand and the world's going to be okay next week, next month, next year. It's decision time.